Chapter 7. The King of Victory. Odin? I gasped. The man standing in front of me looked identical to the descriptions my people would describe. Odin, the All-Father, the god of gods. The old man standing front of me was a giant. He stood at a staggering height of 6 feet 9 inches. His arms were like barrels. He was absolutely bulging with muscles. Long grey hair fell and joined with his long grey beard. He had no eyes. A scar was over his right eye, but the left was just missing. He wore a green tunic complete with a green hat, a brown eye patch with gold thread in the design on a man with 2 ravens on his shoulders. Odin sat over his scarred right eye. A serious look sat upon his face. He held the most elegant golden spear, well, almost a spear. It was half of a spear. The handle was split in twain and formed a semicircle. The half handle was made from pure gold. The blade of the spear was curved like a scimitar. It looked unfinished. Hugin, return. The man spoke in a deep deafening tone. At his command his spear unfolded, and a massive white raven spread its wings and took flight. It circled the area for a few moments before dive-bombing the man. The raven lunged claws first at the man's face and tore into his left eye. After a few moments the raven was gone and a pupilless white eye appeared in his left socket. It looked lifeless. It's him. Sister Grace mumbled. She tugged on the chain to her coffin and turned to flee. Before she could though, the man moved like a blur and cut off her retreat. Forgive my intrusion. We were tracking a herd of lesser demons and it led us straight here. We did not mean to startle you, but it appeared like you needed a hand, the man said. Odin picked Grace up by her shoulders and laughed as he brought her back towards the group of us. We haven't seen another human in centuries. A voice whispered. The sound of the unfamiliar voice made me jump. A slight puff of blue smoke escaped the handle of Behemoth. Oh, my, was that a fear fart? Father Felipe roared into laughter. Odin sat Grace down next to Felipe and then continued towards Fenrir while continuing to mumble to himself. How long has it been, Hugin? The man plopped to the ground with his legs crossed and ran his fingers under his chin. He began to stroke the fur on Fenrir's side. Let's see. We saw the toad man. How long ago was that now? Oh, that is right. The day we killed our first one wing. 230 some years ago. Odin said as he smacked the ground. I knew time was going to be weird in purgatory, but casually recalling memories from hundreds of years ago, I wasn't sure if I could handle that burden. The reality of why they call the grim curse a curse was setting in. An eternity of fighting demons and loneliness until the trumpets play. I was having second thoughts, but deep down I knew I didn't want to leave Fenrir to suffer through that burden alone. Miss Agatha. All demons are gone. Imson had reappeared next to Agatha's side. You fool. Do you not see we still have a stranger among us? She chastised Imson. The man stopped mumbling to himself and punched his fist into the palm of his other hand. Right. The old man burst out laughing. So sorry, miss. Where are our manners? I am Odin, the King of Victory. This is Hugin, my great beast of thought. He jumped up and stood straight and proud. The man slouched after a moment with a slight look of confusion on his face. He began to rub his hand through the long grey beard hair. I was filled with excitement. I was starstruck. The Odin was here in purgatory in my village. I had so many questions, but before I could say anything the man continued to talk. Although I guess after the Amen thing, I can no longer call myself the King of Victory. I heard that name again. It was the same demon that Agatha mentioned. Odin's right eye was missing just like hers. Reality hit. Amen is super scary, huh? I asked. I looked towards Fenrir worried. He was laying in the grass with his head on his paws. He is extremely powerful. He is a 2-winged demon after all. Odin and Hugin replied in unison. I shall tell you the tale of my countless victories in battle. How I became the king of Vikings, and how Amen ruined it all. Odin announced. His white eye looked up towards the sky lifeless. Before any of us could interject, Odin was telling us his story.
It was about 600 years ago. I ruled in a glorious kingdom, Valhalla. It was nestled safely into the base of a metal and gem-rich mountain. Gold flowed through our city. Above our kingdom, which stood for centuries, a mighty giant tree. The width was over 20 feet in diameter. We called it the World Tree. Yggdrasil. My father worshipped the tree along with the people of our kingdom. I spent my childhood and teenage years toiling away in the mines. I broke my back day in and day out to hone this body of rock. I was strong, I was royalty. I was unstoppable. I began to challenge people to fights all throughout the kingdom. Before long, people started calling me a Viking. It was short for the Victory King. The cheers and praise fed my pride. By the time my father died, and I became king, I was undefeated in everything. However, my pride ended up leading to me cursing myself. The worshipping of Yggdrasil grew to annoy me. Praise that should belong to me was going to a tree. I was enraged in my jealousy. The ship was stained a dark red to mimic blood. Gold plates lined the outer wall of the ship to help protect the soft wood underneath. A large black sail with the head of a dark purple wolf sewn into it flapped in a gentle breeze. The head of the ship was a hand-carved head of a mighty dragon. Windows lined the siding of the ship and 20 oars poked through on each side. It was a magnificent ship. I ordered my men to cut down Yggdrasil and make me the mightiest of ships from its wood. A lot of my people were upset, but I did not care. I was the king. I was the strongest. If anyone wanted to test my resolve, I would have had them executed. The ship was stained a dark red to mimic blood. Gold plates lined the outer wall of the ship to help protect the soft wood underneath. A large black sail with the head of a dark purple wolf sewn into it flapped in a gentle breeze. The head of the ship was a hand-carved head of a mighty dragon. Windows lined the siding of the ship and 20 oars poked through on each side. It was a magnificent ship. I gathered the mightiest warriors in my kingdom to participate in a tournament. I was looking for 100 men and women who would become my Vikings and Valkyries. My own son Thor was the winner of the overall tournament. The apple of my eye. My pride for myself was greatly overshadowed by my pride in my own son. Thor was a short man but very mighty. He stood at a height of 5'6". The kingdom called him Giant Slayer because he would often fight the largest men he could find. Like myself, Thor stood undefeated in battle. Once I had my small army and the work on my ship was complete. We set sail. Village after village fell by our hands. We conquered territories and faraway lands. Ship after ship of slaves and goods were being sent back to my kingdom. Everything was fine until we adopted the devilish boy, Loki. Loki had bonded with my son Thor while we were taking over his village. He seemed like a great kid. He was 15 years old, just like Thor. He was thin and scrawny. He had short black hair with a stained white strip down the side. He was very smart and good with his words. He hated to get his hands dirty and would often be seen ignoring his chores to explore a scroll. We had sailed together with Loki for nearly 2 years when it happened. That gluttonous beast found us. We were sailing along on a steady breeze when our ship was abruptly brought to a halt, as if we had hit solid land. We looked down into the depths of the darkness and could see multiple serpents slithering while they swam to the surface. They broke the surface and wrapped themselves around Yggdrasil. Kraken! Loki yelled. He was sprinting around the deck trying to avoid being crushed by the thick tentacles of the Kraken. The tentacles were constricting and the wood began to creak loudly as the pressure built. We were locked firmly in the Kraken's grasp. I could hear my people as they cried out in terror. Our King of Victory has lost. They began to mumble. My pride was on the line. Great anger pulsed through my body. I looked out as the madness before me played out in slow motion. A few tentacles were grabbing people and pulling them down into the water below. Screams and blood were flying in every direction, from every direction. I swallowed my pride and calmed my anger. I have lost. I spoke. I pulled out a golden knife and cut out my own eyes. I presented them as a humble offering before the mighty beast. Please, I give you my sight and my word, we will stop raping foreign lands. I swore. I couldn't see what happened next, but I felt a warm slimy sensation that pulled gently on my skin as it crawled over my hand. I felt the sucker from one of its tentacles as it latched on and accepted my offering. I felt the boat rock violently from side to side and people cheer. The Kraken is retreating. Our wise king is victorious again. They yelled. I felt Thor come to my side and grab my arm. He dabbed the blood from my face with a cool wet rag. You have saved us, Father, Thor said to me. I was about to grab him and pull him in for a hug when a loud roar broke out. The ship began to rock violently again. I heard Loki call out. Watch out, it is thrashing the ship. He screamed. I heard loud bangs and pops, and the Kraken walloped our ship and dragged us into the deep depths of the ocean. We are underwater, yet we can breathe. What magic is this? Thor muttered next to me. Tell me what is happening. I barked the order. We are being pulled down to the bottom of the sea. A bubble of air is surrounding our ship. The Kraken is swimming with a few of the tentacles gently caressing the bubble. Something is coming into view. It looks like it is swimming towards a large circle formation of stones on the sea floor. Thor said. He sounded amazed. I could hear the crew muttering in awe, and a slight hint of regret crossed my mind. I had wished I could experience this moment with them. The Kraken stopped 50 feet above the circle formation and wound up its tentacle and chucked the bubble with our ship inside through a portal into purgatory. We sailed the waters of purgatory for months before realizing we were no longer in the land of the living. We made our way back home to Valhalla, but no one remained to welcome us home. The entire kingdom was empty. My people were uneasy and were starting to talk about how I had doomed them all with my pride. Frustrated, I made my way to the entrance to the old mines. I had Thor lead me to the entrance but wanted to go alone from there. Since I spent my entire life in these mines and on this mountain, I was comfortable with wandering it blindly. I rest my hand on the rugged rock wall, and I made my way through the blackness of the mountain, until I made my way up to its peak. I walked blindly through the snow. I was on my way to the stump of Yggdrasil. I heard loud cries of ravens as I felt a rush of air move past me. I felt countless tiny particles of snow bounce off my clothes. Come get some, I roared. I flexed my muscles in the hopes my loud voice and large stature would scare the birds off. We know who you are, Odin. Two voices spoke in perfect harmony. One had the voice of a man, the other a woman. Who's there? I asked. I am Hugin, the great beast of thought. The male's voice said. I am Munin, the great beast of memory, the female's voice said. You tore down our home so you could conquer fellow men. Munin said. You failed to protect your people. You failed as a king. Hugin whispered. These thoughts within your mind can be like poison. They whispered in unison. I staggered back a few steps. Who were these people talking to me? I wish I could see where they were. I thought to myself. We will lend you our sight, if you promise to replace our home. They whispered in unison. Before I could ask what they meant by that, a sharp pain shot through me. I felt talons land and dig into my chest. I could feel two beaks as they pecked into my empty eye sockets. They forced their way into my skull, and I blinked. When I opened my eyes, I could see. I noticed a large boulder with a layer of ice on it. I could see my reflection looking back at me. I had two eyes again. One was all white with no pupil. The other was all black with no pupil. One was lifeless, the other looked cursed. The sight of my gaze filled me with sorrow. For the first time I looked at the wrinkles on my skin and the grey in my hair and realized I was too old to conquer. I had just turned 55 years old before the kraken attacked. It is a side effect of being blessed by a great beast. Hugin and Munin said in unison. You were blessed by three great beasts? I asked the voices. They were coming from inside my own mind. The kraken blessed you with safe passage to purgatory. We each blessed you with sight and insight. They spoke. I don't understand. I confessed to them. You will. They said in unison. A loud explosion interrupted our chat, and I looked down the mountain towards my kingdom. Smoke was billowing from the courtyard of my castle. I could see 5 large shapes moving and clambering to climb the high walls. Demons. They want to taste the living. Hugin spoke. Thor is in danger. Munin spoke. I took off running as fast I could down the mountain. I was so energized that I ran right past the exit to the mines I had taken to get up here. I jumped and was shocked when I leapt nearly 10 yards down the mountain. Another one of our blessings, yes. Hugin said. How? I was about to ask how Hugin knew my thoughts before he cut me off. I am the great beast of thought. He replied. I ran as memories of Thor played out in my mind. How tough he was a toddler, always stumbling but always getting back up. When he was a young boy he would get in brawls with other boys in the courtyard. By the time he was 10 years old he was wrestling and sparring with our mightiest Vikings. The memories were flooding my body with strength as I ran faster and faster. Now Hugin. Munin called out. Suddenly a black raven burst from my socket and took flight. It flew behind us and lagged for a few moments before soaring towards us. Hugin transformed into a glorious gold spear with half of a handle. It formed a semicircle in the wood. Amazing. I uttered as we ran through a blur of green and white. If you were not in need of my sight, we could form a perfect spear. The Gungnir. Munin said. I was getting close to my kingdom. I could smell blood. The smoke was growing thicker and darker in color. Screams could be heard from all directions as it echoed off of the mountain. I could see the demons in more detail now. They were all about 30 feet tall. They had the torso of a man with the legs of a horse. Large heads of various animals sat on top of each the giants. There's no way we could fight against beasts like this. I said as I ran. There is hope, remember these are the mightiest warriors that you yourself hand-picked. How many battles have you all won? Munin said encouraging me. I made it to the wall of the castle and leapt over it in a single bound. I landed in the courtyard and watched in horror as demons were grabbing my Vikings and Valkyries and eating them. I could hear their bodies popping like a full bladder as they were crushed by the demons' fangs. Farther down. Thor called out to me. I ducked and barely missed being grabbed by a demon. I watched in amazement as Thor ran past me with his axe drawn. He gripped it tightly and slammed the head of it into the demon's side. Thunder echoed through the courtyard from the blow. A bright flash of lightning appeared from how hard Thor had swung his axe. Incredible, I thought. I grabbed the golden spear and rushed off to assist. Together. Shield bearers up front. Push the demons back towards the gate. Bowmen, keep raining arrows down on them. Loki was shouting orders from a safe distance away. Thor and I took down our first demon together. It exploded into a handful of beautiful white flames that danced in the courtyard. I sat mesmerized for a moment as I watched the routine. "Father, watch out!" Thor yelled again. A demon's giant fist was already rocketing towards me in a punch. Thor rushed past and intercepted the blow with his axe. He held the demon's strength back. The sight of a 5-foot man forcing a 30-foot beast to its knees was indescribable. "Thank you two for allowing me to see my son like this," I said proudly. We took down the rest of the demons and the courtyard had been flooded by the blood of fallen warriors and demons. I was gathering the survivors together in the center of the courtyard. We had lost 39 out of the 100 Viking and Valkyries. I was about to turn and order the healthy to tend to the injured when a tsunami of red rain began to fall from the sky. I desperately looked around the courtyard. Everyone except Thor, Loki, and I were gone. Seconds later the loud thump and thuds of uncountable body parts rained down and joined in the seas of blood. "What is this madness?" I asked. "Odin. You have to flee right now." Hugin and Munin warned in unison. I heard a loud clapping of hands. A man in a red robe was walking towards us, but it wasn't a man. It was that demon. "You three have intrigued me. The rest of this lot wasn't worth the journey here." Amun spoke with an elegance I had never heard before. Amun stood at 9 feet tall. A long red robe with black markings adorning it, flowed along the ground as he moved through the sea of red. He had the head of an owl. White and grey feathers joined to form 2 large wings upon his back. Thousands of eyeballs of different colors were sewn into each of the feathers. Each eye looked terrified as they darted their gaze around in every direction. His head cocked side to side and at times appeared as if it rolled around a full 360 degrees. "I shall give each of you an attempt to prove your worth to me," Amun said as he swaggered his way over to us. His left eye was a golden amber color. The right eye was missing and replaced by a large, brilliant ruby. "Ugh!" Thor yelled as he charged the demon with axe drawn. "Don't, my son!" I called out to him. "Failed," Amun said. In a movement Thor hadn't even registered. Amun plucked out Thor's right eye. He held it out in front of him. Grasped in sharp long talons. "How? You didn't even move a broken bar." Those were the only words Thor got out before Amun flicked his wing and it sent Thor's head flying towards my feet. It landed and rolled until it stopped to look up at me. The fear in my son's lifeless eyes still haunt me to this day. "What about you?" Amun was right in front of me. His talons were poking into my right eye. Feathers began to fly everywhere as he pulled out the white raven from my socket. "Oh? You were intriguing. A blessing from a great beast?" Amun spoke as he tore her out of me. I was blind again. Fear shrouded my mind. This demon was incredibly fast and powerful. With all those eyes he could probably have seen in every direction. A soft-spoken voice called out. "Excuse me, sir, I can't help but notice you collect eyes. Here is mine." I heard a moist popping sound as Loki plucked out his right eye. 2 out of 3 interesting humans. This trip was worth it after all. I really like this kingdom. I have been looking for a place to settle down. Amun spoke. By all means, my lord, it is yours. Loki was clearly no longer on my side. I heard a sexy woman's voice speak next. I like this young lad. Can we keep him? She asked. You may keep it, Lilith, only if you take care of this one. Amun spoke to the woman. Before I could hear any more of their conversation, I felt sharp talons dig into my shoulders. A moment later and I felt weightless. Hugin has grabbed me, and we were flying off deeper into purgatory. We landed in a dense cover of forest and remained safely hidden for many weeks. After a while we began wandering purgatory to kill demons and harvest souls to get stronger.
I have wandered around purgatory for the past 600 years trying to build up the strength to kill him. Odin said. We had moved from our spot in the woods back to the church in the village by the time he had finished his story. Impson made us dinner and we were all processing what Odin had just said. I was amazed that not only was Odin real, he was a man, not a god. Agatha told us about her run-in with Amun and how she lost her right eye to him. Felipe and Grace snuggled up in a chair together. They were rubbing their noses together. Fenrir was sitting next to me. Odin stood in the entryway. Amun stole your blessing? Agatha asked. She had been sitting silently for a while. You need to get Munin back. I need my magic, Agatha said excitedly. All of us here will kill him together. A devilish grin spread across her face. With all your help I can get my magic back. Odin can get Munin back. Then I might have a shot at saving my sister, Agatha said. We all looked around the room silently for a few moments before everyone nodded in agreement. We were going to kill him.